Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I got a new bell. I just wanted to bring it out and share it.
Cool.
Got a new bell.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Welcome, Don Zane.
Don Antonio.
I was going to ask you how you doing today, but I know what you're going to say. Maybe. Let's see.
Well, I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain.
Today? I can't complain. Well, maybe, but I'm not going to.
Not today. Another day, maybe.
Maybe later.
Yeah.
So, we're going to get started here in a minute. We're in open sacred space. But first, I just want to invite anyone that has any questions or anything about modern day mysticism, ancient mysticism, magic, anything that's kind of on your mind in that kind of sense, wellness, health. We're here to talk about all those kind of things. So feel free to chime in and share about your experience. And today we're going to talk about a couple interesting things. And what are those things that we're going to touch on today?
I want to talk about ritual observances and of spirit workers in particular, because we often think of it only in terms of the community and only in terms of the work that we're doing for others. But there's a lot in these traditions that are responsibilities we carry for the spirits of the tradition, for our lineage, for our teachers, and that there are certain, we call it pagos or payments that are made, that are part of keeping a relationship alive in these things. And, really, I think that that's something that everyone should really know about, especially when we're talking about traditions with roots. Now, there's a lot of traditions out there that are relatively new in the last 30, 40 years, and majority of them don't have roots. And what that means is they don't go deep into the soil of what it means to be humanity. They really stand up here in this idealistic realm of what they would like to manifest, but what is not realistic to manifest. And these older traditions that have been around, like the Mongolian traditions, the traditions from Siberia, the traditions from the Andes, traditions from Africa, these have been around for centuries. And though they've had to change sometimes a little bit, they held on to a deep understanding of the psyche, and not just necessarily the positive psyche of humanity, but the necessity of the what we would term the negative psyche of humanity, and how it's all part of the dance that we weave in this life.
The dance that we weave in this life.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Welcome, Mary Lee. Hi, Brianna. Hi, 1 million Buddhas.
Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome. All right, everybody. If you join us here, Don Zano, please, if you would open sacred space for us today.
Okay, and I'm going to use a different bell this time, a more serious
one.
Well, no, it's old. It's my original. It's
I remember it. I've seen it before, and I love that one.
Yeah, it's my Easter bell. Okay, so everyone, if you would please just take a moment to center yourself and really focus on your navel. Focus on that area, somewhere around there that just brings your attention to it. And now we're just going to start a few gentle breaths. There's no right or wrong way to do these breaths, just breathing in and centering ourselves more in the space in our stomach that we feel, as if we're breathing in through that space and exhaling out of that space. And as we do that, we're going to start to become aware of a field of personal space that surrounds your body. This is your own space and your own energy. I just want you to take note of it. How close is it to your body? What shape does it make? Are there colors, flavors, scents? What does this field feel like to you? And now I'm going to do a little invocation in Runasimi, which is the traditional way to say Quechua. Before there was Quechua, there was Runasimi, which means the tongue of the people. And just notice how the vibrations, the rhythms in your personal space start to change. Ay, Pachamama, ambui, ambui, ambui. Hayaya, mama aipa, ambui, ambui, ambui. Ambui, 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 machuaqua. Ambui, ambui, ambui. Yacharichi waiku. Spiriti. Ambui. Hayaya koya suyo. Ambui. Hayaya mama unu, mama kocha, mama kia. Ambui. Hayaya hatin chaiwa. Hatin jokin jinjai. Hatin antorango. Koiku waiku. Yacharichi waiku. Kaipa. Ayaya. Cortisuyo. Ambui. Ayaya. Wilka wairakuna. Ambui. Ayayi. Siwarakinte. Ixiwi chikui. Mishkiakita. Tiakata. Sonkoikuta. Futui. Hayaya, chichai suyo. Ambui. Hayaya. Inti taita. Ambui inti. Ambui, hatun kuntar, hatun ankas. Ambui. Wilkanina. Ambui. Anti suyo. Ambui. Kucha, Yuksi Mui, Yuksi Pui, Iskaiwara Pachamama. Mikui. Huk Saiwak, Inti Manta. Hey, Apukuna Nustakuna, Pachamama Nustakuna. Texe muhu amaru, pakukuna kuanderas. Ambui. Hatten kuichi, ambui. Kiche. Saywak, hanak pachamanta. Vira kocha, ambui. Hatan kopya, ambui. Yapa. Sonkoi tuta. Futui. Amahina. Paikuna. Yachainikita. Ayu. SOAR Ayu. Hayaya. And now noticing your field again. How close is it to your body? How far away? What's changed since we opened our circle? Imagining a golden sun of light radiating above your head and reaching your fingertips up into that glorious orb and spreading the kanjai, the living light of the universe down through your energy field, drinking in the medicine at the level of the soul, opening your energy like a peacock opening its fan. And now, Don Antonio and I will reach into our sonkos, our hearts, and pulling up a blanket of securing, loving energy, pulling it up from our heart, up into that Viracocha, and throwing it out like a blanket of stars over everyone watching, bringing us together as one energy, one people, one moment in time. Hey, it's done.
Hey. Ooh, thank you very much, Don Zano.
Always my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see. 1 million Buddhas is here. Benjamin.
Hello, Benjamin. How are you?
Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hello, Paco. Hello, Paco. Hi, Tom Shuck. Welcome,
Yes.
welcome, everyone. I hope you were able to join us for that beautiful opening ceremony. I just love those. We missed them the last couple of times we were on, and it was on my mind today. I've felt the awareness of it coming to me. We got to open it up today. Man, boy, does that feel good.
It does.
Real good. Real good. I feel like before we get started where we're going, it's really apparent to me right now, like more and more post totality, post the eclipse, which for me, I think I explained it before, it's like a new sun has arisen. A new sun is here. There's a new frequency of being that's here. My sensitivity has just been drastically doubling in a way, like in such a way, like most of my experience is far beyond language, and I won't even try to explain that. But the feeling, just the feeling of this open space is so euphoric to me. It's I feel like I'm on a different planet right now. So thanks.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you, man. It's really been interesting to watch the shifts, because it is like waves on the ocean. Things don't just, it's not like one day and then everything's another way, you know. It's like I've been seeing a lot of posts, and it's of course because of the friends I have, but a lot of posts about the white buffalo that was born. And, you know, and all the prophecy about that white buffalo. And it's a beautiful thing to get on board with that idea and to allow that to transform you. But I always want to point out when that's out like that, is that the prophecies of the Americas should not be looked at the way we look at the prophecies of the Abrahamic religions. In the Abrahamic religions, the idea is the prophecy is fail-proof. Absolutely, this is the way it is. It will be this, and it's going to happen to you. The prophecies of the Americas are not like that at all. They're what-if prophecies. They're like logic code in computer programming. When you make a what-if statement, what if this is true and this is true, then this action happens. So it's really important, especially when we're talking about any native prophecy, to actually go and research the entire prophecy. Because if one thing isn't aligned with that prophecy, with exactly the way it was stated, it is not that opening. And the whole thing is, even when it is that opening, the indigenous traditions are about an embodiment of the medicine, of the prophecy. So all that is just like your alarm clock, okay? So you set your alarm clock at 6 a.m. because you know that's a good time for you to get up and get started on your day so you can get to work on time. But that alarm clock going off does not make you get up. You have to take the action. These things will not happen to us. The universe is not going to correct everything that we've done. It's not its job. Our job within the field of free will is to take our power and to actually make choices and decisions, good or bad, but to take our power and to make them. And if we choose not to engage in any way, shape, or form, that's our choice. That's how we're using our power, is by omitting our power and giving it to someone else. So, you know, it's really important to remember that always. These prophecies are not things that are going to happen to us. They just point that something is happening. They point the cycles of time have come to a certain point where there's a shift in the ages. But that shift, no matter how glorious it could be, can also be disastrous. It depends on each one of us, and every human is deciding where they want to take this. And I know this is like beating a dead horse because I do it every time, but it's the most important thing that every human needs to know is that you are powerful. and how you live your life, not a career, not how many people hear what you have to say or anything else, but what you do on the ground, boots on the ground every day, walking your path, that has the greatest consequences in the transformation of this world. How can you live a more empowered life? And how can you inspire others to live a more empowered life so that they can make these great choices and to choose maybe not what's the easiest path, but the path that's getting us closest to where we want to go. Another thing that I've been talking a lot with people about is our dreams. You know, we have dreams, and our forefathers, those that wrote those prophecies down, that's a dream. Each one of those prophecies is a dream of what could happen when the scenarios are right. And we have to be the ones who want to embrace that dream, want to sacrifice for that dream, even if we absolutely know it will never happen in our own personal lifetimes. Even if we know, if it is going to be 150 years from now, people born who you never even met the parents of, if that's the generation that gets to reap the benefits of the dream we're sowing, is it worth the sacrifice and the energy we each have to put into the dream? And if you say no, guess what? It's time to throw that sucker away, because it's not a good dream. Because there's no matter how bright or beautiful the dream is, if people aren't willing to put the energy, effort, and the momentum behind it to create the inertia that moves things along for generations of people they'll never meet, then it's not a dream worth dreaming.
Yeah, no doubt. And where does that begin? That always begins on the inside. That begins from you. Until you're in alignment, you won't even seek to put the world around you in alignment. You'll never even look at it that way. It's not even something you consider. And that's part of this. Think of this as like a beautiful human school where we get to come here and have this vast experience that propels us into a deeper form of knowing them ourselves. I think it's also like important to also be aware that everybody's path is something different. Some people's paths are to be out there with the boots to the ground and do it. Some people are meant to sit on mountains and meditate and bring energy into the field. And the thing is respecting each other for whatever that is. And something that came in, one of my guides started talking to me while you were talking, and it asked me a question, and it said to share this question. It was like, if you had nothing to worry about, like if you weren't afraid to fail, if you weren't worried about money, or you could just do whatever you want, what would you do? And when you sit there and contemplate that, whatever that answer is, that's who you really are. That's who you, what's actually important to you shows up right there when you take away all the other things that create constraints within the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It helps you get a clear vision. And vision is just a vision is a vista, you know, and that's always the thing. Vision is only a vista till we put energy and effort behind that vision. And like we've talked about before, it doesn't always turn out exactly the way you see it. It rarely turns out exactly the way you see it, but it does put forward a correct energy that gets us close, because it's about what is possible here, not the potentiality. Yes, we have infinite potential and the universe has infinite potential, but potentiality is just something out there. It really isn't real. It's in the realm of fantasy. What is closer is what is plausible, and then what is possible, you know, and those are the realms that we want to work with. And we really want to bring everything down into that most plausible realm, because that has the most chance of manifesting in this world. If we put it out there and we're just dealing with the field of potentiality, well, that field of potentiality is really swarmy. And it's changing all the time. Potentials that were there one minute aren't there the next. So it's really hard to manifest something just from pure potentiality.
Yeah, and then that takes us back right into what I was talking about. There's a wide range because a lot of that has to do with each individual's belief system. Whether or not you believe what, for some person, for you maybe, you would say, this is what's plausible in my reality. may not be the same in mine or someone else's. Whatever you think's plausible may be impossible to someone else. Like that's just not possible, and that's fantasy kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like I said before, there's different kinds of energy. So there's going to be people, and these are the people that we need to bring in the energy of potential and possibility, where there's other kinds of people that are going to be more geared into what you're talking about in the creation and the doing part of it. Because it takes both. You need both of those things. You need the energy of potential and possibility to come here. So that way, because what is potential and possibility? What is a possibility? It's a thought that you think it can happen. You think it's possible. And if you think it, that means that energy exists and you can bring it here. I'm very deep into the mindset and understanding, because of the creations I've made in my own life, that the universe is responding to my vibration. It doesn't know if I'm good or I'm bad, or you're good or we're bad. It doesn't know that. It doesn't have that kind of thing. Those are ideas of our ego mind. It just responds to the way that our vibration is in the field. And however the vibration is, that's generally what's going to happen. But you never know, like, just like how we could say you want to place your energy and attention towards some sort of outcome that you would believe is for the greater good, and also not be attached to any outcomes, because that can also evolve. That's the thing. Is like, a lot of people, I've seen them get stuck on a path, and they think that that path should not evolve, but you're alive and you're evolving. So your first shot where you started at several years back, or what seems like several years back in this forward moving reality, is not the same idea or feeling anymore. It starts to draw you. It's like a river. It just takes you. And I think that's why, in the biggest term, it doesn't matter really how it turns out, depending on your mindset. If you have a mindset that mine's like this, I'm completely aware and feel that creation, God, or the universe, however one wants to put that, is always working to my benefit, even if I don't see it in the moment. Absolutely. So long as I allow myself to stay in that mindset, I'm going to get pulled out of there from time to time. That's on purpose, because I'm here to learn as I get pulled out of there. But every time I come back to there, and that's my default mode, I'm not worried about what happens. I understand that it's going to happen the way it's meant to happen. And what I need to do is kind of what we're talking about here: follow my heart, follow what it's asking me to do. And if that's to do what I'm doing now, sharing shamanic practices, doing healings for people, maybe that's it for now. Maybe it evolves into something totally different. And I'm totally open for that, because I'm always ready to evolve. I don't want to have any restriction on evolution. I have no idea. I'm the kind of person that says you're under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. Evolve.
Well, you can't be. Even if you think you are, you're not.
If you tried, because we're really crazy.
That's the beauty of being alive, is that we're not static. We're a constantly vibrating creature. Every person and everything brings out a different vibration of yourself, which means it brings out a whole different you. The me that I am with you is a totally different me than the me I am with Hank, or the me I am with Casey, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Well, right. We're each a universe, that's how I understand this. I understand there's trillions of cells that make this body, in which is being observed as Zane. The universe is creating a being that its name is Zane, and then each individual person is another expression of the universe, of the one living energy. And why? Because think about it this way: if you're God and you create this beautiful stuff, what would be the best way to observe it and really immerse yourself into the experience? Blend into the experience, become one with that experience. Because now each one of us is like a neuron in God's brain, or an eye or a finger of God. And it's having its own beautiful, unique experience, full of growing intelligence. It's this intelligence. It's not like we think in earthly terms of like pluses and minuses and IQ, intelligence quotients. That's a form of intelligence, but it's a very limited form of intelligence. The intelligence that's growing with us spiritually, the parts of us that we can't even put in human language, is what the true intelligence is growing within us.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a beautiful dance that we're playing with creation itself. I love the idea of the unity consciousness and the oneness, but that's not where I come from. That's not where my focus is. My focus is always on the multiplicity. My focus is on it primarily, and oneness secondarily, because that's the way I'm geared. That's the way my spirit's geared in this world. That's not the way everyone's spirit is geared.
Just
but
like we
that's
were
the way
saying.
my particular spirit is geared, is that I feel the primary importance is on the multiplicity, on the separation, not on the unity. And I know that it flies in the face of many things. And I don't need to even explain myself, because those who get it, and those who don't.
All right. Because
Yeah.
you're actually just talking about the same thing. That's
Absolutely.
it means the same thing. It's just a different language. It's coming from a different polarity of the language, but it means the same thing. Because I'm very much, I would say I'm more the opposite. I'm more focused into the unity consciousness and appreciate the multiplicity. The multiplicity is what creates the beauty of our unity. It's like, it's like if you had a hand that was a mitten, that's cool. There's not much multiplicity there. But you have a hand with open fingers, you got a bunch of different things that can happen there. Possibility. That's what makes it beautiful. It's blending those two together. It's somehow reminding me of how when we had the live stream, we talked about merging and balancing of magic and mysticism. It's the same way. It's the same feeling. It's not that one's above or greater. There's two kinds of poles of energy, because we live in a dual world. That's what's happening.
Yeah, we live in a dualistic world, and in that dualism, there is the unity and there is the separation. And I personally don't like when people say the separation is an illusion, or that we have to get beyond the separation to be able to step into the unity, because the unity, the oneness, can't be the oneness without separation. You can't chop pieces off to get to the wholeness. Wholeness is all, it has all the multiplicity built into it, has all those vibrations. So separation is a vibration of the oneness.
Yeah, I have a different feeling about it. So for me, it's kind of more like separation is an illusion of my ego mind. Anytime I think, because I can feel that I'm one with everything too. So my feeling of the oneness of everything, that's the beauty. I understand that my mind creates separation, and that's what makes it beautiful. So I get it though. This is great though, because this is kind of aligning just what we were talking about. There's different types of spirit, different types of being here. It's not that one's wrong or right. We all have our things that we're meant to bring energy and life into, because they complement each other. Because if it's all leaning one way, there'd be no balance. There's no balance at all.
And that brings up a point that really wasn't one I wanted. I was going to talk about, but one I think is important to talk about, and that is, I love Anthony, and he is one of my students, and he's one of my beloved students. He's one of the people I really appreciate, and I feel does great work with all of this. And sometimes people might see interactions and think, oh, that's not a respectful way to converse with your teacher, because they're coming from that guru type of place.
Right.
And I just want to say, in these traditions, in these shamanic traditions, especially the ones from South America, there's no guru. They don't want to be looked at that way. They don't want to be treated that way. That's not the reality. Don't romanticize the priest. The priest has the problems everyone else does, just has more tools to work with. And so that's, and sometimes we Westerners don't get that because of the Judeo-Christian upbringing. We almost elevate people and say, oh, they're untouchable. Oh, this. Don't do that to your teachers, because you're just putting them on a pedestal they have to fall from. And in our tradition, this is something we call pukliai. It's one of the ways that priest pukliai is to rib each other and to point out things that are different, and also to point out especially if you're the student, the koyana, which means the teacher's pet. It's your job to point out any inconsistencies that your teacher has stated, or anytime they state something in a different way that doesn't make sense with what they had stated before. It's your job to point that out to them, and through that, but in a spirit of play, and through that playful interaction, both grow, and it keeps the teachers honest, because the teachers can be dishonest and not know they are. Because at one moment you're in one dream, at another moment you're in another dream. And it takes sometimes your students to bring you back to reality and say, hey, wait a second, I don't know what you're talking about there. That doesn't make any sense with what you had taught before. So tell me why, make that make sense for me. And that is the role of the student-teacher relationship, at least in this tradition. And in all the traditions that I've ever had the honor of being with, you respect your teacher, you listen, and you try to put whatever they say into proper context. But at the same time, you're a human and you're allowed to question your teacher. No one in my tradition, none of the Pacos, and if you ever run into one that does say this, run from them as fast as possible. None of them say this is absolute true. This is the only way it can be. You can't have any variation. It has to be this way. You must listen to every word I say and bow down and kiss my feet. And if you find that, run away as fast as you can, because that's no matter what tradition is coming from, and no matter how spiritually powerful they are, that is a form of control.
Yep.
That is a form of abusing your energy. Of making you less powerful, taking that extra power that you would have had inside of yourself and drinking it into them to hold them up. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure our priests and our Pacos can stand on their own 2 feet within the turbulent waters of life. If not, do they have anything to teach you? If they can't take a little criticism or a little difference, why are they really standing on a pillar?
Yeah. Plus, it's more interesting to show that we're not the exact, because then that shows that we're allowed to be different. And that's what it kind of shows. It shows that and like I'm explaining, we're meant to have some different viewpoints and feelings. And like I said, those can evolve.
Yeah.
Who knows what will happen? We could switch sides.
Absolutely. I bet we will.
Sometimes we will. And then down this side, I'll be saying what you're saying.
I am absolutely sure we will. And I look forward to it. I look forward to us being on the opposite ends of that conversation once again and confusing everyone that's watching going, wait a second, because you don't have to be static. You don't have to be the same person. You're allowed in these traditions that Anthony and I teach, and especially the way we're twins in this way. We believe that these traditions are for you. Yes. And they're for you to find your way with, and for you to dial in what's right for you, because it's not exactly the same for everyone. The wisdom's the same, but you got to dial it in. It's just like a key. Someone gives you a key, you still have to figure out how to get it in the lock and which way to turn it. A key just by itself is nothing but a piece of junk that lays around. But if you know where it goes and then you put the action into unlocking it, it can open some beautiful things for you.
No doubt. Let's see if anybody's brought any questions or anything. If not, what we're going to do is we're going to go into what you were originally going to talk about. Mary Lee was talking about, I think this was early when you were opening up Sacred Space, about her bubble enlarged. She saw purple flowers at her feet and her palms are pulsing.
Good. Awesome.
Oops. It's officially summertime when the sleeves come off. Hey, man, sun's out, guns out. And I got all you can see is get high, but it says get high in your own supply.
I love that.
These t-shirts are for sale. If anybody wants one, I can get them made for you. So if you want to.
Yeah, he made me a beautiful t-shirt from a spontaneous teaching at a retreat, the last big hot and Karpai retreat we had up in the mountains. And there was a spontaneous teaching. I won't go into what the teaching means. I want to keep you all guessing. But the shirt says, "Sink in, donut face." That's the teaching.
Ooh, that was cool. I got a little buzz back here when you said that. Fun.
And it's a beautiful shirt.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm glad you like it. See, I know you guys think I'm ribbing Zane or giving him a hard time, but I'm not. I love Zane. He's I would say my favorite human teacher, but you're really my only human teacher, and I love that. How lucky am I? How great that is for me. Like, I love to sit there and contemplate that. Like, how amazing is that this beautiful magic that's existed forever in some sort of way has kind of made its way up all the way through here into here, and always like just sits there and it blows my mind. I sit there and like I think about how the ancient Inca, how they didn't really care to protect riches and gold. It was this energy. It was this intelligence that's open to us, these frequencies of consciousness that we have the ability to intertwine with. And just like yours, that's what I loved about it right away. As he understood, I could feel it right away. This feeling, oh, this is a living tradition. Oh, it's a living tradition. This isn't like, this doesn't feel super like constricted or anything. It's actually telling me, hey, please grow, please expand, do the best you can and grow. I was like, yeah, that's it. That's it. And I just remember being so blown away that like this isn't taught in school to us, like who the Inca were. I think that should be part of like standard normal types. But see, that would probably that would infect the current idea of
Yeah, it's hard for the Western world because the Inca, without a written language, without any form of writing like that, and without really super complex mathematics, was able to create one of the largest and most peaceful empires of the ancient world. And that really isn't something that the Western world wants to say, hey, look what they did, because look what we did to them. Look what we came and did and destroyed all that so that we could say that our way was correct. We tore down their temples to erect our churches and things like that. And though that is all part of the evolution of humanity, I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm saying, yeah, there was cruelty that happened. But like Pachacuti understood, like Atahualpa understood, like S.O.A.R understood, it's part of the changing of the times. That's what Pachacuti meant. It meant world turned upside down. And a world turned upside down doesn't mean always positive for everyone. Doesn't mean that everything is, but it does mean in some way, it's like cogs in a wheel. In some way, there is a direction being forged. There is a movement that keeps propelling us into a more advanced form of humanity. And I know people will say, well, look at what they could do back then. They were way more advanced. And my only thing to say is no, because what they could do back then is still being done today by them. And what we could do back then is still being done today. And it's not saying the Western way is wrong. It's saying the Western way is one piece of the puzzle. The Inca way is one piece of the puzzle. And when they came together, they didn't fit quite right. And they had to wear each other down, and they had to find how they could fit and groove together. And now we're at the point where all of the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. And yeah, there's going to be rough edges, and we're going to have friction and earthquakes and all kinds of things as we learn how to be one with each other. But isn't it worth it? I mean, it's just like a romantic relationship. At first, you might be infatuated and just by the brilliance of the other person. And then after a while, you start to rub each other in different ways. And maybe not all of them aren't really fun, but that's part of the whole dance. That's part of getting to know each other. And if we're honest with each other and we bring forward our beautiful self, even if it causes friction sometimes, if we bring that forward and don't hide it, then all of a sudden we can be mature about it and we can learn how we can harmonize with each other. But if we're not mature about it and we hide those things, then they become passive aggressive insecurities or passive aggressive ways of dealing with the other person. And then no real unity can happen. So it's important for us to display our differences, to display the ways that we don't get along, because that's the only way we can be true to ourselves. Yeah, and it's just a beautiful dance.
Yeah, it's that's evolving with our consciousness, understanding that you don't have to agree with anyone. All you have to do is accept that all possibilities exist. Yeah. You don't have to agree. Someone's thinks a way that you don't agree with. Fine. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to do anything. You just have to do what you think is best and begin to change. Yeah.
Having mutual respect. And the only way to learn how to have that mutual respect is to air what's in your heart to each other, to see where things don't groove easily, and where things groove easily. That's how we form mutual respect. It's not by just getting rid of all the differences and wiping those all clean. That will breed resentment between peoples and cultures and stuff. We need to honor that. That's how cultural appropriation happened. When people, and it's not, and I'm not talking about any of us here, but when people like go to the Inca and they'll cherry pick an idea from them and then put it together with some other idea from something else, smash it together and say, well, this is how the Inca thought, or this is how that tradition works. And in that, you lose the beauty. It's like, I always say, you follow your heart. And all of us are a mixture of spirits. We're all a mixture of cultures and peoples and races. And you follow your heart. And maybe your heart starts telling you that you're a Hindu and you need to go into that. Now, it's not telling you that for some surface level thing that you see that agrees with your current belief system, because you don't need that. You already believe that. You didn't need that little piece from Hinduism that agreed, and to take it out and say, hey, that proves what I think over here is right. You need to go into the deep dive. If you're called to a tradition, deeply dive into it, learn everything you can about it, learn exactly how it sees things, and you're going to find that eventually you're going to run into a friction that is against your current view of the world. And most likely than not, that's the gold that's waiting for you in that tradition. Not all the things that agree with what you already think. You didn't need any extra support for what you already think. But when you find that thing that doesn't agree and that friction that happens, and it doesn't mean that you start believing that, but that friction that happens and what that does inside to you and how you handle that friction, that will tell you more about yourself than anything else in that tradition will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Those moments that don't feel comfortable, those
Right.
moments that challenge you. And I know you agree with me. That's how you build muscle,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's how, when you're exercising, you don't want to sit there and say, oh, now it's getting a little heavy. I think I'll stop.
I need a break. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I don't think I will be able to bend my arm tomorrow. Well, probably not, but that's part of it too. It gets uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally the kind of being that I like to seek discomfort. It's through discomfort I find the greatest rewards, the greatest beauty in all things. Like when you're mentioning, there were so many things that aligned with, and what they did was reinforce what was being taught to me and brought into me from the non-human space, the things that were coming into me, the awareness that was coming to me. When this tradition came into the reality and I started to become aware of it, I was like, it was so amazed. This is before I had the memories. I've been this before. I've been an Inca priest several times. So I didn't remember that yet, but it seemed so familiar that it was so strange to me at the same time. But then the first things that started to show up in the tradition, I had a lot of resistance to, was going into the lower world, was opening up. I had plenty of practice moving. That was the first things that talked to me were upper world spirits. And I was having lots of communication and connection. And boy, that opened everything up. But then when it was time to move into the lower world, I had a lot of resistance. And it didn't take me long to understand why. That it had to do with subconscious programs of religious conditioning. And, especially when we start to work with serpent energy, I'm like, what? I don't know, man. I'm not going to work with snakes. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is bad, isn't it? Because I didn't realize that, oh, wow, I've been programmed to think snakes are bad, not living energy, I see. So I started to pay attention and understand. Then I could feel the energy, and then it started to remember. I started, I'm at home here too. I'm at home on all levels of being. And I started to remember really fast. And then I remember I was really nervous about connecting to S.O.A.R. And then when I connected to S.O.A.R, he's kind of connected to me and like, are you okay? Like, we know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to remember. So it was really something, because I had this feeling almost, by the way, like I could feel the interaction of energy moving. I was almost nervous, like he was going to reject me or something. And then when I showed up, it was just the feeling of the energy was almost like I was over introducing myself energetically. Hi, S.O.A.R. He's like, yeah, are you okay? Like that's how the words were. There wasn't words like that, but the feeling was like that, and I felt like almost foolish in some sort of way. That was fun.
Absolutely, I get it. I get it. We come from a tradition that lost its indigenous roots. I mean, the European traditions, more unless you're talking about the Sami, in Norway or into Siberia and stuff like that. Even they lost a lot of their tradition, but we lost our ancient stories. But at one time, there was what we call the serpent cult. And you all can investigate this on your own time. But you'll find that in the ancient world, worldwide, there was a cult called the serpent cult. And what it did was it almost in every culture saw the serpent as related to the energy of earth and fertility and life. And that was also true of the Babylonian tradition and the Zoroastrian tradition. And when the religion and the cultural philosophy that took over Europe is one of Judeo-Christian. It's a Judeo-Christian story. And if you really look at the first few books of the Torah or the Old Testament, and you compare them to the Chronicles of Gilgamesh from Babylon, you'll find that the Chronicles of Gilgamesh is a prototype for those first books of the Bible. And you'll understand then a little bit more about this serpent that tricked Eve, that is kind of mistranslated into Satan, by the church. Originally, that serpent, its name was wisdom. And it was bringing something to humanity. It was an adversary because it gave a counterpoint to what humanity knew so that they could step up to use the power of their free will.
Right.
Now, there's one other thing that we see there is that because the Sumerian cultures related themselves so closely with the energy of the serpent, that when the Hebrews came out of Babylon, they brought with them the spiritual technology of Babylon, but they needed to in some way differentiate themselves. So they had to paint the serpent in a negative light because the serpent meant Babylon. So they had to say that we came away from that. We learned something from it, but we've come away from that now, and we're going to continue to grow in a separate tree, and that's important to understand when because a lot of people have fear when it comes to the serpent in our culture.
Yeah.
Because they're like, wait a second, everything I was taught, indoctrinated into me, it all started with that serpent. And that serpent did this thing to all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I get right. But that it all changed as soon as my consciousness came to a point where it started to understand that there's no mistakes. And so that started to open up the awareness of the serpent and kind of, everything in the Bible's parable. My also awareness of serpent is frequency, a vibrational frequency that comes in. And that's exactly the word is wisdom, a form of knowing. So that created differentiation and sort of a shift in energy, and it's really just what brings us here. That without that serpent, there would be no development of the ego mind, which is no problem. I'm not one of those people that say the ego is not your amigo and kill your ego, and because if you try to murder your ego, it's going to fight you back is what's going to happen. It's just going to fool you is what's going to happen. It's really just a form of energy that just needs to be organized. It's a tool. It's meant to be used and experienced properly. It's like it's a kind of like its own form of intelligence. It's almost like the spirit develops this form of AI that we call ego.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the ego, especially, and I term it a little differently, but I totally honor your way of seeing it. But I see the ego as the part of ourselves that allows us to have any measure of personal power in this reality. The ego is the power that we use. So, and the best way for me to say that is the ego is not always, we often frame it as bad. But it's not always bad. The ego is also the thing in you that says, I don't want to be this type of person that just takes advantage of people. That's also the ego. And when you make the choice to not do that, it's the ego that carries out that. I see it as the servant, the servant of our soul that allows us to do anything. But we got to get clear inside of ourselves when we're wounded and hurt and all of that, our ego is protective. And it's like a serpent protecting its den. It's not like the serpent out sunning on a rock. It's like a serpent in its den and anything, because they're pretty much blind. Most serpents can't see very well. So any sense that they get of something is danger, and they're going to strike at it or act fierce toward it. And that is like the the human soul stuck in his shadows. But when we come out of that shadow and we're out in the mud, out walking around, you know, if you come upon a serpent, even the really deadly ones, unless you get that close to them, they usually don't do anything. They usually just mind their own business and try to find somewhere else to go, because they're like, it's a big world. If that's a danger, I can move away from it. That takes less energy than attacking it. But when it's in its den, it has nowhere to go. It feels like a caged animal. And that's the ego as well. The ego is like that double-headed serpent. You know, when you're inside your shadows and deep in your den, and everything is dangerous. When you're expressing yourself in full beauty, because, you know, in our tradition, serpent is what teaches you to walk in beauty in the garden again, just like serpent walks in beauty in the garden. You know, it's a beautiful transition.
Yeah, I agree. Tom Shuck says, a few weeks ago, I wasn't even in meditation, but I was in an arena and I saw people in black cloaks with no faces. It was kind of scary. Sounds scary. Or interesting. Depends on what you call it, whatever you want. Jake Henry. I don't know who Jake Henry is. Do you, Zane?
Nope, never heard of him.
Maybe you can tell us more about that, Anna, please. Mary says, I remember this. I called in serpent energy in the woods last week, and I literally found a snake, and she took a picture of it next to me within a minute. Then my dog led me down another path, and we ran into an even bigger snake. And since Pacha Mary loves critters, they became Mary's critters just for a little while. And I know she was struggling not to bring them home. She was struggling not to bring those little serpents home with the rest of the zoo we have.
It was interesting that you bring that up, because it was just about a week ago. I think it was last Tuesday. And I was really pondering about serpent energy. And I was really thinking about it, and more than thinking in an intellectual way, just really embodying it and feeling it. And I was out on a walk with my dog Boomer. And when we came home, there was this gigantic, like almost 4 foot long black snake wrapped around the railing of the house, you know, the steps, the railing of the steps. And at first I didn't even notice it, but Boomer went right up to it. And I yank him back because I can't see what it is, you know. But it's a full, beautiful snake, and I got to have a few moments with it and then chase it off, of course. But, you know, had a few beautiful moments with it.
Nice. I love it. Anna says, Jake is my son, Anthony.
Awesome.
Okay. Do you have a question or anything you want to share about that, Anna? We would love to step into there with you. I feel like there's something you want to say. So please feel free. Say whatever it is you want to say.
What's Jake needing?
Yeah. What's Jake needing? Good question. And while we wait for Anna, we'll what was the original topic that we were gonna start to talk about?
I was just going to talk a little bit about ritual observances of spirit workers.
Yeah.
You know, basically, people sometimes, and I'm putting this out there because the people who are your audience, you know, most all of you are spirit workers or are stepping into that arena in some way or another. And, you know, sometimes from the outside, it looks like this work is something that you do only for a community. And the community is the last part of it all, not the first part. It's the last part of your observances and your responsibility. You know, so I just, people don't sometimes know how much work goes into all this. Just like here, after we're done here, I have a ceremony to do. And it's for no one. It's not for a client or anything like that. It's part of my responsibility to continue a good relationship with certain spirits, that I have to set aside time to do these types of services. That's why it's called a path of service. We're serving the spirits, and in that way, we get to connect with each other. We get to have a better relationship, and we get to depend on each other and know that when one calls out, the other will answer the call. You know, and that's a big part of it. So, you know, I don't think people really always get this, but we do a lot of work that's just for our tradition, just for the spirits of the tradition. Every month I do a despacho. that cost me somewhere between 15 some a month up to $45. And it's not for anything but my connection with the tradition, with those spirits that have changed my life so much. It's like a bank account. I actually say it's like divine credit. Aini. It's part of my Aini with the tradition. As I make this, I start to pay off a debt that I can never pay off to the spirits of my tradition. And that ups my credit rating. Every time I make a despacho, I'm putting more money in the bank, but I'm not just putting it in there for me. Every time I make one of those despachos, there's now money in that bank account for any other Paco that's doing a despacho for anything. So just the despacho I do because of love. But if I have something that's pressing, that's in that despacho too. But the despacho that I do just for love of the tradition of the spirits, that feeds the spirits. Now, Paco that's doing a despacho to try to heal a tumor in their father or mother or someone in their village, that energy is there for them. And they are pulling from that credit. And now they owe that credit back. But that's the beautiful thing about Aini. Aini credit, you always get back more than you give, and you always owe more than you can ever pay back.
Right.
So it creates this divine movement, and that's part of keeping things healthy. The other thing people don't seem to realize is when you step out and you start to serve a community, it's a weight. And you have to decide if the weight of a certain person or a certain group or something like that is worthwhile on your energy field. Because once again, it's like a bank account. And you want to make sure that you are being fiscally responsible with your energy. So you have to really take all that into consideration. When I do a big karpai, or I'm doing these workshops, or I start an apprenticeship, some people say, well, why isn't that apprenticeship material just available to me forever? Why, I paid for it, I got into it, because it's not right for me to hold a container open for you forever, to hold a piece of that power for you. You get what you come into it with. And if you come with an open mind, you'll get exactly what you need that run. And then that's why you come back again for another run. Yeah, and you go through it again because you'll learn more things. But it's not about learning everything all at once. And all that information, all those digital videos I created and stuff, that's not even the living energy. The living energy that's being shared is because in that moment I am sharing this pokpo, this energy of my bubble of accumulated wisdom that can never be translated into words. Those words are like little keys I'm giving you that will allow you to open a door where that wisdom can come in. But that's one of those things is we carry people. It's called a pachi. And you don't want to carry people forever because then you're not doing any service for them. You're not helping them develop what's beautiful inside of themselves. If you cut that cord, they have to stand on their own. And they have to make whatever they had learned in that last run of the program. They have to use that and strengthen that. And that is a gift. Instead of them going, oh, I don't know if I'm doing it right. Let me go back and see. No, now you're on your own. You're on your own 2 feet. That's part of growing. That's part of moving forward. And maybe you won't do it right. Or maybe you don't do it the way I told you to do it. But you know what? You can't do it wrong. I think Anthony and I are in agreement with this. There's enough wrongs in the world. Let's not make wrongs. Let's just make rights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm done with that. I don't like to spend any time there. Honestly, I really don't. Like, I can't find any reason why I should do that, why I should place my energy and judgment towards wrong, making it wrong. How does that help me? I can't find any reason for that. Just not even from a spiritual, mental mind standpoint, just from a standpoint of logic, a logical explanation. I cannot figure out any reason why I should put any focus there. But I also, when it happens, I don't care either, because I know that has to happen. I'm in total just okay with however anything shows up now in my reality. I have no resistance. It shows up. Maybe I'm pissed for 5 minutes. I'm not mad that I'm pissed. I'm not mad that I'm triggered. I think it's fun that I'm triggered. Oh, I'm triggered. Good. What can I learn from this? That's the first thing I kind of look at is what can it give me? What's it here to show me? I'm aware it's always teaching me. This is what I'm here for. I'm in like a teaching program. It's teaching me how to do things. Just like how when you're explaining about like maintaining connection with spirit, for me, it's a deep understanding of this is all a neural network. And when I connect and I do my ritual, and when I do, just like you're saying, I'm putting energy into the field. I'm putting potential and possibility into the field for someone else to draw from, or they're putting in the field for me to draw from. It's that bank you were talking about. But I think a lot of the times, though, and like how you're saying, like videos, like, yeah, I'm sure I've heard several people in the past say, like, that sucks that we can't access this stuff forever. I'm like, well, you're missing the point. It's for you to pick up and take with you, not for you to keep revisiting, because also those videos, by the next time, how do we know by the next time that you do an apprenticeship that will be the same way you teach? It may not, because
it probably won't be.
This isn't like a bake by numbers kind of thing. You have a skeleton of things, but I've noticed that, because I'm the same way. It's intuition. You want the whole idea is for it to be a living tradition, not keep regurgitating the same idea, because you're evolving. If you're evolving as the teacher, your teaching evolves. It's going to move. So that's I totally get that. And then the thing is for service. So maybe we can talk about this a little bit. A lot of people seem to struggle a little bit. I don't. So that's something I have no problem with at all, is discipline. I have plenty of it. I can find if there's something that means something to me and something that needs to happen, whether I want to do it or not, it's going to happen. That's how it is. There's times I don't feel like getting into my practice and making my connection with spirit. I show up anyway, because I know that's kind of my duty. I signed up for this. I signed up. I made during priesthood rites and things like that, I made actual connections and what feel like promises to me, to the living energy, to the spirits that surround me, to maintain this connection, because it's not just for me, it's for everything. We're all coming together into that one kind of space. So I think for a lot of people, it's the discipline of service. Like, some people have a really hard time being disciplined to show up in their space to make things happen, and then are really hard on themselves and completely fall away from their practice.
Yeah. I
wonder if what would you say about that? Like, how do you keep yourself disciplined in your service?
Well, I'm not 100% sure exactly how that works for me. I am just a very disciplined person. Maybe that I entered martial arts when I was really young, and they transformed my life and made me what I feel a better version of myself. And that might be part of it, is I had the discipline to do that, which was something very physical and very unrewarding at times. Just doing the same motion over and over again for years, trying to get it right. Or even after you got it right, you have to keep doing it to keep it right, And so I think that's part of it. But another part of it is, I like the analogy you used of neural networks. And of course, neurons that fire together, wire together. And neurons that don't fire together anymore, sever. And that happens. So, to understand that, you have to keep that flow moving. And then I also, because I'm so spirit-based. And what I mean by that is so much about the spirit, about the individual spirits all around me, and having communications with them and stuff, that I understand it's a relationship. Now, I also understand that the version of relationship from a spirit to a human is a little different than between human and human. But it comes down to this. You have a best friend. You grew up with them. And you used to talk all the time. Now, they might still be my best friend, but I became an adult and I focus more on other people, and I just haven't talked to them a whole lot. And say something comes up. I need help moving my house. I'm moving to another place, and I call my best friend. Now, if I haven't talked to them for 15 years, they may or may not help me, but probably they're going to say, man, I really can't do that. I have these other commitments and responsibilities, and they should say that to me. And because that's the way it works. Now, out of the kindness of their heart, they might say, oh, you know what? I'd love to reconnect with you. Let's get together. I'll help you move. But it's just like a relationship. And you have to really, if you really start to see it that way, that these things are I like how you say they're parts of you that you just don't know yet. I think that's a beautiful way of seeing it. But if you want to get to know those parts of you, you've got to put the work into it. And relationship is always two-sided. You put in something and you get something back. You have to set up, it's just like if I want to have a good relationship with my friend or my romantic partner, I've got to set up some type of date sometimes. We got to go do stuff together. We got to, and it's not even the activity that you're doing that's so important. It's the fact that you're making time. So, as sacredness, it's a ritual. Everything you do. Let's go out to dinner. That's a ritual. It really is. Let's go to a movie. That's a ritual. Hey, let's go to the bar. Even that's a ritual.
Hey, let's do a live stream. That's a ritual.
Exactly. And it's a time that you've committed to be with that other person and to strengthen that connection and love between you. And that's how I stay committed, because I want to have a good relationship with my spirits, because I've seen what they've done for my life. I've seen how they've helped me. My spirits they show me that they did it sometimes. I mean, I might, to the point where they'll leave me calling cards. Their favorite incense will be being burnt at a place I go to. The first time I went to Goddess Elite and did the first ceremony there was one of the spirits that I work with. There was an altar set up right where we were doing the work to that spirit. Now, how's that happen? Because the spirit world wants to prove itself to you. It doesn't need to prove itself forever to you. It only needs to prove itself a couple times. Then it's your responsibility to believe that those friends are out there helping you. And but they'll show you calling cards. That's my work there. When you see their name written on the side of a bus while you're driving, and you're like, well, I'm going to be okay because my spirit just told me I'm going to be okay. Because my spirit is this big bus beside me. You know, these are those occurrences.
Yeah.
Just like, like I was saying, I have a week-long ceremony I'm doing. And one of the spirits, when my cat Astor was sick and was going to die, one of the spirits that I work with came to me. And, and I was very sad. And what I wanted to hear was that he was going to be okay, and that he wasn't going to die. And the spirit did not say that to me. The spirit helped me come to grips with the fact that he was. And it loved me and comforted me in a moment that was really dark for me, really hard for me. And it was supposed to be that way. When you lose something you love, you hurt. And that's a good hurt, though. That's a good hurt. It's a good sadness. It's what sadness is. It's the proper type of sadness. It's sacred. It's a sacred thing. And, that was very important to me. And, I just remembered that when I was working with that spirit last night, and I broke down into tears. And those tears, that welling up of sadness and tears and everything, and the memory of that's food for that spirit. And I'm feeding it that. I'm saying, thank you. I love you. Thank you for going out of your way, for coming and being in my life. Even if that's all you ever did, that meant so much to me, and you didn't have to do it. And I wasn't even reaching out for you, but then you were there, and you comforted me like a baby. You held me close, and that means the world to me. And I won't ever forget that. And when you have experiences like that, I know it can be hard because our minds play tricks with us, and they say, well, is that real? And all this other stuff. But when you start to have those type of experiences, and they're so monumental to you, you realize that maybe it's not the way I see it, but there's something real going on here. And it's so beautiful and so magical that it's worth me putting time and attention and taking things away from some parts of my life. But there's a responsibility on the spirit worker too, because the responsibility is you can't let a tradition suck you dry either. You can't put all of your energy in you have to live a life too. You got to go out, you work hard so you can party hard, and you need to have those down times, and the spirits understand that. But if you start to make oaths of, you're going to do something that is even against yourself for that tradition, the spirits will uphold you for that, because they know how beautiful the tradition is. And if that's a sacrifice you want to make, but understand you don't have to. You always have a choice in things. And the spirit world does understand. Now, some spirits are more strict than others, just like some people are more strict than others. And you got to know the spirit you're working with. And that's part of that relationship. If I don't sit and do rituals with the spirits, I can't build the relationship with them to understand what they like, what they don't like. Because I do have likes and dislikes. If they were just mindless automatons of positive light, that would make no sense.
Mhm. It'd be
That would make
boring.
no sense whatsoever. There is a realm like that, and that's beautiful. But the
Mhm.
spirits have personalities. They have likes and dislikes.
Mhm.
And those are qualities. And to go with some analogy you use, they're parts of ourselves that we just don't know yet. I see it like, we shamans see our ourselves built of millions of threads of light that come
Mhm.
together, and they first form this bubble around us.
Mhm.
Well, every one of those threads of light is a unique spirit in and of itself that is weaving you together. And that's why some people have certain spirits. Maybe you have a close relationship with Shiva and someone else can't have a relationship with Shiva because they don't have the Shiva thread.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
And that's why they're going to be different. Some people are hot, some people are cold, and that's because of the types of spirits that they are woven from. That's that community consciousness. And you can have spiritual threads in you that are like fire and water and might not get along. And you know what that is? That's parts of yourself that you have to learn to work with, and you have to learn how to give and take with those parts of yourself. And that comes from having a relationship, and that relationship, that's what keeps me disciplined. I don't know a better way to describe it.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm totally on board with all of those things. It's hard to explain because that's a hard thing to explain. What creates your discipline? And so, like you, I'll go back to earlier times. I was a wrestler in high school, and then after that, I trained in mixed martial arts for a while, where you have to be very disciplined in what you're doing. I've also, like most of my life, have like trained in like strength training and things like that. So that requires a lot of discipline, being okay with being uncomfortable, pain, discomfort over time, and really pushing yourself and having a goal to consistently work at evolution.
Yeah.
Like, so this has been like not any different for me, but as you were explaining, spirit proves itself to you. And that's where it started really for me. And the big beginning, the big strong beginning for me is when spirit started showing up and started giving me guidance, and I started healing my body and my
Mhm.
brain and my mind and my emotions. And then I really started to understand, like, wow, that's where I came with the awareness, as the spirits were helping me to understand, because I'm asking, what is this and what's happening, and what's going on, and they're helping me to understand, like, well, we're parts of you don't know yet, because your creation itself, everything is us, everything is one kind of living thing. And the more that you open yourself up, the more you can connect to the oneness of everything and bring it into you, which actually helps your individuality, which opens up so it's like that funny balance thing that happens that's
Yeah.
starting to come in. And then, like, I call those like synchronicities, when you have the signs that repeatedly show up around you. But you have to develop that's happening all the time. It's always happening. It's whether or not you have the intuitive awareness to see that truth that's there with you, to feel that truth that's there with you, because
Yeah.
those threads are what's always guiding us here. Those beautiful threads of light that thread into this beautiful bubble that's projecting this physical idea. And then the
Yeah.
word that really strong was coming through, and you were talking, and you never really got to that word, but said all the other words around is balance.
Yeah.
Balancing your energy, because that's something that on and off I struggle with, because I am so driven to try to, because I can move a lot of energy. So I'm very driven to push it out and give and push and push and give and give. And then I'm not paying attention to keeping the cup full. I'm not staying in flow. Something comes out of flow, and then I feel run down. Then I feel drained or depleted. And then I feel really different. And then soon as I take the advice of the spiritual guidance that's around me, because I've already been being warned, but that's my ego. My ego's trying to run shit. It's trying to do. And then my spiritual guidance trying to tell me, hey, you need to calm down. Then I start having signs, people around me, like, hey, make sure you take time to relax. Make sure I get these signs. It's spirit talking through people. Just
Yeah.
like when you see, I love when you said that big yellow bus is my spirit. Yes, just like the table at Goddess. Yes, that is the spirit in a physical form showing itself to you. Hi, that's what it's here for. It's to do that kind of thing. But balance is essential, and that's something I consistently am working with. Not even just in that sense, I actually take time to work on the balance of my physical body because I'm aware that they're directly correlated. The awareness that's happening in this body, if I don't have balance from my feet to the top of my head in this body, I'm not going to have much balance exteriorly, because the center of this, anything that's awareness here, is coming through this vessel, this interface. So the more this nervous system works, the more that it's moving energy, it connects. And I became really early fully aware that it connects outside of our body, because nothing is separate from us. Distance is an illusion. Time is an illusion. It's just things for us to play with. It's things for us to observe and feel. It's not that they're unreal or bad, because that's where some people go. Is I can tell you how my perception of how this reality is created, and that's going to sound pretty much like a simulation theory is what it's going to sound like. But that's my perception. Whatever yours is yours, and you're supposed to have that. And it doesn't matter what that perception is, because how it's happening doesn't matter at all. What matters is the experience of what you're having here. The experience of what's going on here is really what we're meant to have. This is a life to be experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It's just a living miracle, honestly. And to me, that is redundant, because to me, life is already a miracle.
Cool.
But some people sometimes need to hear the words together, because some people just start to get drained, and we say that that's part of that serpent energy as well. When people start to just feel like life is just the same old, and I don't have the thrill or the love or anything like that, it's because that serpent quality in you is diminished a bit, that you're not in complete connection with it. You're paying more attention to the narrative roles and the story behind stories and the emotions of things. But when you get right back into that serpent energy, which can be seen as your body, when you just feel something divorced of thought and divorced of emotion, and you just feel it on a sensorial level, that is that serpent energy, and it's a beautiful energy. And that's the medicine when someone's feeling like life is just dragging on, or they just feel so weak and like they just don't have enough strength. They just got to get back down into the sensorial awareness, and they have to just turn off the emotional awareness, turn off the mental awareness, because those things are great. They're parts of us. We need to develop them as well. But there's moments that we just have to be in one. There's also moments that we need to be fully engaged in the emotional body. And that's for the health of the emotional body. And there's moments that we're engaged in all four bodies, serpent, jaguar, hummingbird, and condor. There's moments we're engaged in all four of those bodies. But there's moments that we're only supposed to be in one. And we have to give ourselves time. It's like working out your muscles. If you just work out your bicep and you never work out your tricep, well, you're going to be in some trouble. You're not going to have proper balance, and you're not going to have a full range of motion after a while.
Yeah. Balance. They were right back at balance again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you were speaking about those things, what it was is what starts to come through to me is what usually causes my burnout is I'm giving out so much energy, and then I'm not taking enough time to take enough back in. And it's always amazing how, when that happens to me, when I have that come in, the balance shows itself to me right away, because I'll start to be like, and it's just because it's so hard. This is hard. I don't know. I know people probably think like being a shaman is like this. It is. And I'm not going to say it isn't. It's a wonderful and beautiful thing. But to be completely honest, I work more now than I ever have in my life. I work my work into this, and my drive and dedication to be a better human and a better man and a better priest. Those things drive me. Like I can't even explain how those drive me. That takes you into a place that's beyond language, but it's just so hard. And I know it's supposed to be. I'm aware it's supposed to be. And so even when that pops up in that time, like maybe I'm done with this. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm going to go back to some easier kind of life. And then I catch myself saying back. You can never go back. You can only go forward because there's only now, buddy. And then
Yeah,
so I started to become aware of some sort of program that's happening, some sort of lack mindset that's beginning to come up, or
yeah,
some disconnection. And then it's just like clockwork. As soon as I let go a little bit of that energy, then I start having, because that's the most beautiful thing about being doing what we do, is seeing, is when you become aware of the work that you're doing and how it's impacting the world.
yeah,
It's impacting everything from the inside of you out into the people around you, the lives around you, the community in which you're connected, and even
yeah.
further, you start to become aware of those. And those are the best. I love when I get those emails from someone that shows up and they're like, hey, I just wanted to tell you, I've been watching you for the last 2 years. Really? Yeah, I just never showed up. And I just want to tell you the things that you talk about and you teach us, it's changed my life completely. And I just want to thank you so much. And that's someone I didn't have any actual direct interaction with. And that's knowing that tells you how many are beyond that. For the
Yeah,
people you know and you're aware that you touched, for the people that you know and you're aware that you've made change in their life because they're telling you, there's hundreds beyond them that are moving. That's the thing
absolutely.
that keeps me driven. That's the thing, to see that just fills my bucket, to see a human being just loving their life, just seeing something they never saw before. You know, if someone tells me like, oh, I took your advice the other day and I was making waffles this morning and I became completely present. And it was the most beautiful waffle I've ever made, just because you put that suggestion in my mind to be with my food.
Absolutely.
Or
Yeah,
I've sat there with my food tonight, because I always talk about that kind of thing. Sit there, have a relationship with your food. Food's a spirit, it's alive. Have a relationship, love it. And people, that's something a lot of people say to me. It's like, just, you said that to me, and I find myself just doing it now, just sitting there and having this connection with stuff. Just, I can sit there in my office and look at my pen and ponder its existence and feel its
yeah,
beauty and its radiance in my hand. And like that's just so amazing. That to me is what brings in the balance. I'm just getting better. And I understand. I'm not saying anything's wrong. Nothing's wrong. There's times I'm worn down. Why? Because that's how I learn. If I already had all the balance, then what am I here for? That's,
yeah,
I'm here
absolutely.
to learn how to balance this. And as I
And
learn how to
just
balance it, God gives me more. I'm given more. I'm given
absolutely.
more to balance as I allow myself to do it. It's just giving me more all the time.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And just to bring it to the human level,
Yeah.
as a teacher, to let people know how this, just because you brought that up, I want to share, I have been working really hard for the last few years, and
Uh-huh.
especially in the last month or so,
Mm-hmm.
and the last few weeks, I've been putting a lot of effort out there. And the effort is a labor of love. I enjoy it.
Yes.
But I came to a realization just the other night. I was like, you know what? I'm putting too much energy in.
Mm-hmm.
And that those are the realizations you have. And then you get to decide, do I listen? Do I listen to my heart that just told me I'm putting too much into that in this way? Or do I sit there and go, no, 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 I got to keep going. And if I do that, then what's really driving me? Ambition and these other things. And those are all beautiful, but those things have to really be checked and kept in balance.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just get a download that says, hey, you're putting too much out, it's time to sit, and then it's time to sit back. It's time to receive back from the universe. It's time to relax and enjoy. It reminds me of Don Benito. And Don Benito, he was famous. And of course, in the Andes, you only do healing work 2 days a week. There's only 2 days that you do the work on. You can do conducting work any day of the week, but in particular, healing or manifestation work, you only do on certain sanctioned days, 2 days a week. And on those 2 days, he would have people lined up on the mountain. Hundreds of people would come sometimes because he was such a famous healer. And he would tell you, and it takes a long time, it might have took you and your family and the ill person you're bringing, it might have taken you 2-3 weeks to get to his hut on that day. Now, there would come times when he would just wake up one morning and say, I'm not doing it. And he would vanish for 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. And all these people who had appointments that are sick, are ill, are really needing his help. And they're still showing up. They're still taking that hike because they can't get the information. There's no way to send it to them. And he just took off, probably didn't even tell his wife he was taking off, just vanished. And, so he's not there, but he has to do that because those were moments when he realized he had gotten out of balance. And especially when you do a lot of healing work, you want to give so much for so many people that you find yourself depleted and deep in hoocha before you realize it. And then the only thing you can do is take time out for yourself, because if you keep going, there's an infinite supply of spiritual energy, but you only get so much of it that can course through your vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you've depleted that energy, whether you've depleted it in meditation or you've depleted it in ritual or in healing or in travel to get to a place, once you deplete it, the extra energy does not come from out there anymore. It comes from the energy inside of your mitochondria, because there are backup energy reserves. That's what they're for. So when we start to use that energy and we start to burn that energy has diminishing returns. That's when the body starts to break down and we start to feel tired. We start to feel exhausted. You get up and you're like, I just can't do it. I can't force myself to do this today. Why is that? Because your body's saying you are depleted. It's time for you to allow more into you. And I know there's the concept, well, there's an infinite supply. There is total abundance of reality, of energy in our reality. But if you're not respecting the reality and the energy that was entrusted to you and you're just pouring it all out, you're not in Aini anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You are in a whole different cycle. And that cycle is you are in debt to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't take the time ever to repay that debt to yourself, it will manifest as illness. It will manifest as headaches, as body aches, as complete breakdowns of systems in your body. So it's always important to listen to that. And that was one of the things that I was saying, you got to be one thing, don't promise spirits, even the spirits of your tradition, anything more than what you're willing to give. Because that's when things get murky. You don't promise something to a spirit and then not give it. What you promised, you give. Now you can negotiate, but you do that before you make the promise. Because once you've sealed the deal with your promise, they're going to fulfill their job. It's your responsibility to fulfill yours. And so it's always important. We say with the Pausairuna, the creative spirits, that we can work with, they'll ask for a lot. They'll say, oh, no, for us to be your muse and to help you make that project happen and everything, you're going to have to give us this and your firstborn child and this and this. And if you agree to that, they expect it. But you know what? Those spirits will work for cheap if you negotiate. It's just like being in Peru. They're going to come up with their textiles or something, and they're going to say $140. And if you say, okay, you owe them $140. But what they expect you to do is to say, no, $25. And they'll go, oh, no, I could never do that. $90. No, $20. No, I could never do that. That's highway robbery. I couldn't do that. I could do 50 maybe. No, you know what? How about 30 and you give me that too? Oh, I don't know if I could do that. Well, I tell you what, I'll give you 50 if you give me these two other things. Okay, there you go. And Westerners, we don't understand that because everything is standardized here. You don't go into a supermarket and say, no, I don't think I'm paying that for that banana. They have no power to change that for you. That's set way up higher. So they don't have the power to say, okay, I'll give you that discount. But in Peru, in the third world countries of the world, it is expected. And if you don't do it, it's a sign of your own ignorance, of your own inability to understand human relation. So it's actually considered part of it. Sit with me for an hour or two and haggle over the price. Then we get to know each other. Then I know you at the end. It's not just, hey, you bought this off of me. We got to have a real moment. Yeah. Because we're going to talk about other things while we're haggling.
Yeah, and that's a form of balance. That's what's missing here. Is there, that ability to negotiate is, it's rare. It's some transactions, but most of them, no. You're going to a store. This is what it costs. Good. That's what it is. Go. And there's no communication. There's no sharing of energy, because there's a deep sharing that's happening. There's a neurological interaction, just like you're saying, and you know each other. What is knowing each other? Knowing each other is a connection energetically in that field. When your popos begin to work together, the things you're not saying through your mouth, they begin to show up there in that space. That's the beauty of that. That's the beauty of that way of living, of that way of being. It is that form of kind of balance that's happening there in that transaction.
Yeah. And Aini, that's really one of the ways we see Aini, and I sometimes hear people say things like Aini exchange, which they're meaning pay me for this or pay me for that. And my Aini exchange for this is $125. Well, that's not Aini. That's another mercantile exchange called Chaya. And that comes from the Uhupacha, where they don't know Aini yet. And in a transaction like that, you want this bell, I tell you it's $25, I give it to you. Our whole interaction, our whole ability to know each other happens in that moment. You give me the money and I give you the bell. And then after that, there is no more of it. We no longer have an interchange going on. But if we sat there and we talked and haggled it, then you got to know that person to some degree. They became a moment in your life, not just 30 seconds in your life. They became maybe a half hour, 25 minutes in your life. And then the next time you're walking down the street, they're like, yeah, hey, Tony, they can know you that way and they feel that for you. And that's not just here. Europe's like that too. Most of Europe, Spain and Italy and Greece, it's very much like that. But then, that there's other places where it's less like that. And North America, we're one of the places where we're so standardized with everything that it breaks down it breaks down the ease of relationship, the ease of Aini moving, because Aini happens forever. And that's why it can't be that $125 someone gave you for the healing, because Aini goes on forever. There's a movement of energy between you and them in a strange way for the rest of existence, because you've touched each other on such a deep level. That is just, hey, I need this because it took me a certain amount of money and it takes this amount of time for me to devote this to you. And, I have to pay my bills and stuff like that. But that's really not an Aini exchange.
That's an energy exchange.
Yeah.
Secondarily, sometimes can affect Aini. But it's not the actual exchange of the currency and the thing. It's not what's happening in the physical idea of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's always a beautiful thing for people to get to understand.
Angela says, hi, Anthony and Zane.
Hello, Angela. How are you?
Hi. Well, Zane, we're at about an hour and 32 minutes. Maybe we should start heading into the wrap up.
Yeah, I think we should, because like I said, I do have some ritual work to do tonight, and I don't want to go way late.
My favorite ritual work to do that I do often is I like to go over to the lake. I like to go over to the Suyanusta Lake Erie, and I walk out on the rocks, and then I usually set up a really small mesa there on the rocks, and then I pull out my Misha and my bell, and I open up sacred space there, and I call in all the spirits. And then basically what I'm doing is I'm doing like a form of passive prayer, connecting energy. And so I'm using the mind's eye to be able to connect lines of energy everywhere, giving energy into the space, having a nice interaction. It's something I do probably 3 to 4 times a week, and even more so now because of the weather. And that's the thing. I was out in nature this morning. That was the first time I was called to it first thing this morning. I dropped my daughter off at school, and me and Frank, my pit bull, my dog, we went out into the woods, and it was that new sun was out talking to me. It was so good. It was just so amazing. Nature. And now everything's starting to bloom, and it's better than before. I'm seeing, like I mentioned this before, the last 4 years, every spring now, I'm aware and I see new species of plants, new forms of birds, things I never saw before in previous realities, things that are brand new. And these are what, people consider like Mandela effects. I just think of it as quantum. I'm aware that I'm moving through a quantum shift. Yesterday still exists, just in another frequency of consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that It's just like what we were talking about before. Like if you feel bored and life's dull, just walk home a different way, and you'll experience something new, and it starts to renew you.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, it's a good time to wrap up here.
Okay. Well, let us wrap up. Before you wrap up, is there anything you want to promote or talk about?
Yeah, sure. So the Modern Shaman's Diet, the next run of it is going to start in just a few weeks. This month is what is planned to start. I would have had the link for you today, but the link is not working right now. The platform that the interface I'm using is down for some type of maintenance at this moment. So I just went in before the show and I thought, oh, I'll get all that ready. No, not right now. It's not functioning at this moment. So that let me know it has to be, even though I'll only be able to give people like a week or so of notice, that's just the way it's going to be this time.
You get whoever's meant to be there, right? That's
exactly.
The next thing we have going on is Saturday. If you're local, we'll be at a really cool place called Flows and Grows, which is a yoga studio and plant shop in Crocker Park. A woman named Emily owns it. We've done a couple other events there so far. This one's going to be really deep into connection with rooting yourself to the earth, connecting with because there's lots of plants in the room. There'll be lots of plants energy to connect with. And then also included there, if you come into the event, you receive 15% off any plant purchases. And there's lots of cool plants there to buy. Emily's very much, I consider her like a plant yogi. She's like a plant shaman yogi. That's how her energy feels. So I recommend come on out and check that out. Be with us there. I have some other things coming out pretty soon, but I don't have any links or anything to share, so I'm not going to even go into there yet. So, but soon there's going to be some really interesting things coming. One of them being that I'm going to be offering a breathwork class. So that will be coming soon. It's currently under construction. I started to build it. It's just there's so much happening. I'm trying to figure out how to balance and create all the things I'm working on creating, but there's a lot of cool stuff coming.
And I want to give you a shout out. I believe Anthony does some of the best breath work. I really feel he is a master of the breath. And I myself, breath work has been so important to me. And I went to one of his events and he strings it together in such a beautiful way. To give you a full, well-rounded movement through energy, to really teach these deep, unspeakable lessons to you through the art of breathing. Even if you do nothing but just follow the instruction of the breath, you're going to get it all. And I want everyone to know that I just think that you are a fantastic breathwork facilitator, wow. and the fact that you make it your own. And that is something unique and beautiful, and that you can see you in the improvisational magic of the moment. Not like, oh, I'm going to do this and then it has to go here. You feel the energy of the room and you go where it needs to go, and you apply the breath that's necessary at that moment. And in that way, you take everyone on a beautiful magic carpet ride. And I just want to give you kudos for that, brother.
Wow, thank you so much, Zane. That's a wonderful, wonderful compliment, and that means a lot to me. Thank you so much. And yeah, I do the best. I want to even teach it to other people, not just because there's lots of people doing like breathwork certification courses and things, and it's just really mechanical. It feels really mechanical. I want to teach this more like a living art. I want it to be more like an art and a discipline, almost like creating. It's got this feel to it within me that's very much like that. It's like a form of martial art to me, is what it's like. And I want to teach it that way to people, so that way they develop into it. It's not just like, well, I do this exercise and this exercise and this exercise. Those are all great things. But at some point, I'm always trying to encourage people to learn on your own, because I feel like the breath is a spirit and you're meant to develop a relationship with it within you, with your connection to it. So thank you so much, Zane. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I have to say it. I mean, I'm trying so much anymore to really let people know the great people out there that do work, that I've personally experienced their work. I want to help them, and I want to put in, if me saying that just gets one person to show up at your circle, then it was worth it. And more than that, it's worth it because I need you to know how much I appreciate you.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And I appreciate you as well. And I'm so grateful to be here with you and under your tutelage, and the things that you share and have brought into my reality have been priceless. So thank you, Zane. And I look forward to, I tell everyone, like, if you get a chance, work with Zane. Do something that Zane's doing. Check it out. Find out what's going on and go there. Well, I always mention that. I think that's,
yeah. We've got to be, that's part of being an IU. That's part of being a group of Pacos, a group of we don't have to use that word, spirit workers, whatever you want to call it, mystics. That's part of being that group, is helping each other grow, helping people know about each other. It's so important. And it's so lacking oftentimes anymore, because, everyone gets kind of stuck in just trying to survive and sometimes, and the whole thing with spiritual work is sometimes events are huge and you have a humongous amount of people, and sometimes you just have a few. And that's just the way it is. Sometimes you're going to have a community of hundreds. Other times you're not going to have a community for days, months, years, even sometimes. And it's just so important to remember, this is a labor of love. It's a calling of the soul and the heart. It's not a business, though sometimes it resembles one.
Sometimes it resembles one completely in that aspect. Angela says he sure is a master of breath. Thank you so much. I get a lot of love today. Learning his teachings has helped me transform, and I'm just getting started. In a few breaths, I can completely change my state. A Nike Kuyaki. Thank you. And Mary says, I look forward to the next time that we all get together. Zane. So I think she's saying, Zane, pay attention. We're going to try to make something happen.
Well, I'll be up that way. I think it's not this weekend, but next weekend I'll be up there teaching the next live weekend of the apprenticeship that's going on up there. So maybe we can figure out something there. Let's see what each other are doing and what time spots might be open. And then June, I will also be up there the third weekend of June. So that might be easier for us to plan something around.
Fantastic. I can't wait. Zane, would you like to close the space for us?
Sure. Hey, Pachamama, Mama Pacha, Mama Aipa, Machakwaipa, Mama Kia, Mama Kocha, Mama Uno, Hatan Chaiwa, Hatan Chakun Chinchay, Hatan Ontorongo, Hey, Wilkawaira Kuna, Sivar Quinte, Kumer Quinte. Hayaya Inti Taita, Hatun Kundar, Hatun Angus. Hayaya Apukuna, Nustakuna, Apu Nustakuna, Pachamama Nustakuna, Paco Kuna, Nustakuna. Cuenderas, Texe Muhu Amaru. Kontiki Verokocha Pachamak. Naiki Koyaiki and Chanda Menainte Quiki. Arpichai Songolai, Arpichai Songolai, Arpichai Songolai. And everyone reaching out with your physical hands out into the lowest part of your bubble and raising your hands up. Scooping the light like a peacock closing his fan, scooping all of that light back up into a luminous egg above your head. And now imagining that egg is taking on the form of my Misha. And allow it to come down into your crown, right behind your three eyes. This luminous ball of light, and anything that is heavy, stuck, or stagnant, anything that was jarred loose during this time together, if it is ready to move, allow it to be magnetically pulled into that ball of light, into this living Misha inside of your head. And as it attracts that, like a magnet attracts iron filings coming down into your heart and anywhere in your emotional body that feels heavy, tense, stagnant, anything that no longer serves you, anything that was jarred loose during our conversations, that is sitting there kind of ajar. If it is ready to move, allow it to just be sucked into this ball of light in your heart. And as that magnetic ball now goes down into your navel and back behind your navel in the central channel, and anything in your physical body, any tension, anything that's hurting, anything that is keeping you from enjoying a relaxed, healthy pose, if it's ready to move, allow it to move into this ball of light in your navel. Taking a deep breath in, retaining and focusing on a ball of light in your navel. Just allowing everything to go into that light. And on the count of 3, we're going to exhale and just see that ball of light go straight into the center of the earth, feeding the earth with this beautiful energy that was once poisons in your body and now will be the mulch for future life. 1, 2, 3. Noticing your field of space around you. How close is it to your body? How far away? What do you sense from it? What do you feel from it? Thank you so much. Have a blessed week.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Zane. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us tonight to soar with us. Thank you. We'll be back in 2 Wednesdays, and we'll see you then. Feel free, anybody that wants to reach out, if you have any questions or anything, feel free, reach out to Zane, reach out to me. We love to hear from you. We love you all so much, and I hope you have a beautiful night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.